Hey, John Eats Cheap with a favorite that Mrs. Cheap and I discovered a few years ago on a road trip down south. I had always heard of greens and never had them until we went to, two places in North Carolina on the same day and had them. And then the next day we had them in Georgia. Greens, I get these at Fresh Time. It's like $1 for a bunch. So after we had them, every place we had them, they were kind of the same. So I got a good idea of the taste and thought, well, I think maybe I'll add a little of this or maybe not so much of that. So I kind of came up with, I searched recipes online and kind of came up with one that we really like that tastes like the ones that we had. So here we go with greens. Start off with a couple of ham hocks, smoked ham hocks. I'm going to get those going in a couple of cups of chicken broth first off, then we'll clean our greens. Now, my deal with greens is I'm no expert at this by any means. I've made these probably 5 or 6 times, and I know they might not be the way that, true Southern cooks that know how to make them do it, but this is the way we love them. And like I said, it's a recreation, a good recreation of the ones that we had on our road trip. So I think it's pretty close. All right, so with our greens, you can see how big they are. Those are giant leaves, and you just want to rinse them off and get any dirt off of them. Almost looks like a giant rhubarb leaf, doesn't it?
And it seems like a lot, but they really,
It's like spinach, yeah. It really cooks down. Hey.
It's like spinach, but it's not spinach.
No, it's not, because I don't care for spinach. You know what, though? If I made spinach this way, I might. Yeah, these are pretty nice and clean. That one's got a little bit of bad spot on it. I'm just gonna go ahead and take that off now. Smoked ham hocks. You can get these, they even carry these at Fairway. I'm just gonna put this in, and we are gonna let that come to a boil and then just kind of simmer it in there for, like an hour probably. Let that ham hock get nice and tender so we can pull the meat off of it, and that'll be the meat that we'll use. If it's not enough, we'll throw a little ham in there. We had it even at a place in Mount Airy, North Carolina, and they had bologna. That was their meat in their greens, and it was great.
Aunt Bee's.
Aunt Bee's in Mount Airy, yep. So ham hock is what I really like, and it adds some smoky flavor to the broth too. All right, so we have our greens, and you just don't want this stem right down the middle. So you just peel right down that stem. Or you could cut too. And once you get down to the end, it's okay there. But you just want to get these as stem free, because that does not get tender when you cook it. See, once you get down that far, it's okay. So I'm just going to clean these, and we'll get ready to cut. Now there's lots of greens. Some people call lettuce greens, or I know there's mustard greens. These are collard greens. Like I said, it's not very expensive. This was £1, I think, or a big bunch, and it was $1. So just getting these stems out, that's probably enough to where I can cut a little bit. And I'm just gonna kind of roll this up, just like this.
Is that chiffonade?
Well, that's what we're gonna do.
Oh, fancy.
And then just slice them. Not like that. I like about 1/2 inch to 1 inch strips. I guess that's probably about 1/2 inch. And you can see how tough it is to cut, really. So these really are chewy. They really do need to cook down and get tender. And they do, and they're tasty. All right, there's our greens, all just cut up into strips. So we're gonna let our ham hocks kind of simmer for about an hour. Get lots of good flavor out of them and make them nice and tender. All right, so I'm 45 minutes in. I pulled the ham hocks out. That meat should be, yeah, that's good and tender. I'm gonna let those cool and I can pick the meat off of that. And look at the broth. You know, that was just almost clear chicken broth. Look at how much more flavor is in there now. So I put a couple tablespoons of bacon grease in to a different pan. I'm gonna have to go a little bigger. And this is about half of a Vidalia sweet onion. And I'm just gonna cook this in the bacon grease until it gets soft. Then I'll add a little bit of garlic and get my broth in there, and we can add our greens to start cooking. So that's about how I want my onions, just kind of soft. I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of minced garlic in there. Stir that up for just about 15 seconds.
Smell that right away.
Oh buddy, onion and garlic. What a combo, and we got it in bacon grease.
Sorry.
I'm gonna throw my greens in there. I went to a bigger pan just for the greens so I could just get them all in at once, hopefully. We'll see.
They'll wilt.
Yeah. And it won't take them long. Cover them for a little bit and they'll wilt. Now I'm gonna add my broth. And again, this is a quart of chicken broth. Now I need to get my seasonings. And this, let me again shout out, this is one of the best cheap seasonings. I get it at the Family Dollar. It's $1. Soul food seasoning. So flavorful. It is salt, paprika, coriander, cayenne, black pepper, garlic, celery, and cumin. A lot of stuff. I love this. I put it on chicken. Really good stuff. So I got a little bit of sugar, some salt, some pepper, some cayenne, and soul food seasoning. We'll have the recipe down below. It's like pretty much a half a teaspoon of most of them. A couple teaspoons of the soul food seasoning. And you can see how, look at how that went down right there.
Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
like half the
It's
stuff.
manageable. To the broth, I add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar.
That's gonna give it a nice little tart.
Oh, that little bit of sour, and we got a little sugar in here, so I'm not kidding you, this is so good. This is one of my favorite side dishes, besides Mrs. Cheap's cheesy bacony grits, which we have to do a video on that sometime.
They're really good.
Those are good. Look at us making these southern dishes that we have no, business doing, but we had them when we were there and we love them. Okay, I'm gonna cover these. My ham hocks are cooling. I don't have to add the pieces of ham until just before we serve. So I'm gonna get this up. It's pretty hot right now. I'm gonna go ahead and put that down, turn that down to a simmer.
So we'll eat in like 15, 20 minutes?
These have to go 2 hours at least, 2 to 3 hours. I'm serious. You saw how tough they were when I was cutting them. They're really tough, so they really need to simmer 2 to 3 hours. I'm sorry. It's worth the wait. All right, the greens have been in the broth with the onions and the garlic for about an hour. See how they cook down. They smell great. So I'm gonna add the meat from the ham hock. They were not very meaty ham hocks. That was about all I got from that. Fortunately, I had some leftover Easter ham in the freezer that we use for omelets and breakfast casserole. So I'm gonna stir that in too.
We had bologna in the one at Aunt Bee's.
Aunt Bee's, yeah, bologna. And we've had it with pulled pork, and we've had it with ham, I think.
Yeah, I think just about.
So there we go.
Just any meat.
Gonna go back in. They aren't anywhere near tender enough yet. They're still kind of tough. So covered, simmered for another hour. So there we are, a little over 2.5 hours in. Our chicken sausages are ready. I think the greens are too. Let's get it plated up. Ready to go. So we got a little fresh thyme Parmesan chicken sausage. That looks beautiful. Going with our greens, and as I said, these freeze great. So make a lot. Been going about 2.5, 245. Very hot. Tender and perfect. Just like we had in North Carolina.
And if you're worried about greens, they don't taste like spinach. That
They
was
don't.
my big concern the first time I
Not
had
at
them.
all. This is such a good vinegar, sweet pork. I mean, yeah, this isn't spinach. And this is just like what we had in North Carolina. Seriously? What?
If we go south again, though, we'll get it every place we
I
go
know we
because
will.
every place is a little different. Everybody does their greens different.
I love the greens. Can't wait to dig in. Thanks for watching. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, of course. Like the video, please. Johnny's Cheap. Thanks for watching.